Good afternoon to everyone that's joining our Pivotal College program, Talking College Before, During, and After. I want to thank you for coming. I'm Tom O'Hare. I'm joined by my colleagues Shelley Honeycutt and Kathleen Dion, and we're here to try to provide some insights into what's going on in today's college planning and career planning world. We're benefited by the fact that three of us have been in the industry for a long time, and Kathleen also brings some extensive background in career services. Our intent is to be with you for about 30 minutes, answer your questions, provide some guidance and insights, and just talk about what's going on today. Please use the chat box to put your questions in. We'll answer them and try to provide some additional ideas. So to start off, ladies, let's talk a little bit about what's going on in today's world. I think that what's real common is the fact that schools are still putting out their bills, still adjusting their tuitions, and families are scrambling. Have you been seeing that?
Yes, interesting times. We're getting many calls talking with families that are just getting their bills, just starting the funding process. And I know Kathleen has been experiencing this as well.
Yeah, they seem to be coming late to the game, and they seem to be coming with information on the bill that families might have already taken care of at this point. For instance, health insurance costs. I've seen a couple of bills come through this week where that was actually still included. We had to double check and make sure that the school actually had taken care of that detail, so families aren't paying, $2,000 to $4,000 extra a year.
So that's a good point.
Signing the waiver.
Yeah, if families are on with us today, if you haven't done that, it's typically in the student accounts of the bursar's office. Sometimes it's in the health office. The waiver allows you to not get billed for that cost because it is a requirement in all states that students demonstrate they have health insurance, and more importantly, even now. Have you guys seen some adjustments for housing? I had a call with someone yesterday who was really puzzled because the students are going to be studying online at home, but the school's still including room and board in the tuition in the bill.
I have seen it in the opposite direction, credits on the fall bill from spring. Good. Due to the CARES Act. Yes, I've seen it in the reverse. So it's nice to see that. I guess that's, my opinion is that is colleges figuring out how to use their funds from the CARES Act that they hadn't already used in the spring semester. But I have not seen those charges.
Yeah, well, that was a huge struggle.
Yeah, and I think the important thing to message for families is you try to have control over the situation. If you're seeing fees like that on your bill, you can proactively back those out. If you know your student isn't going to be using housing and you're at a point where you need to line up funding, because in addition to the bills going out now, they also seem to be due next week. It's just all backed up. And unfortunately, the bill due dates weren't really pushed as far as, you would think. So as a family, sit down and actually do the math. Decide what charges you actually are going to need. I mean, you still have to pay for tuition and fees and technology fees, but if you are truly not staying in the dorms, don't borrow that money or don't pay that money out of pocket, and have the conversation with the schools. Make the phone call and ask the questions if you can get through. But it is a busy time of year, so it is difficult to get through. So we do often just back that money out and borrow what we know we're going to use.
And for new families, that timeline is typically when we're not experiencing a pandemic, the due dates are typically August 1st, and many colleges have pushed them to August 15th and still don't have the bills or accurate bills out there. Parents have been slacking too, though, I have to tell you. They haven't seemed to have the urgency to get the bill and the funding together. But we have seen some interesting trends in the funding arena as well, I think. How about you folks?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, interest rates for variable are relatively low, almost as strong as the home equity side. There's still a fluctuation in some of the private loans for the students. I've seen some 7 and 8%, some as low as 5%. But we haven't had anyone since Wells Fargo drop out of the program. Well, SunTrust and Wells Fargo dropped out. I don't know if you've seen early. But yeah, I don't know what the Plus Loan program is doing from the standpoint of families going to that. Do you have any experience with folks using that program?
Yeah, the federal Plus Loan is going through quite easy, quite quickly. But I was surprised to see some of our lenders that we typically lean on, the variation in the interest rates. I know Kathleen had experienced that. Maybe you can fill us in on some of the details, because where we expected to see lower rates, we haven't sometimes.
Yeah, and that's been an interesting trend. Some of the lenders that I used last year that I was very happy with consistently, I felt like they were giving good deals, good interest rates to families. Not that they're giving necessarily bad, but they're not giving the best that are out there. So my suggestion to families is, once you've used all your federal aid, maybe you've taken advantage of as much of a payment plan as you can for the year. If you still have to borrow, don't just necessarily do one loan application. Professionally, I would suggest to a client up to 3, within that short window of time is just enough to see what's possible. And it gives you some really good options, because the lowest rate I've seen so far is 1.5% variable, which I don't think I've ever seen that before on a private student loan.
And that's with no fee, right?
Exactly. So you need to shop just a little. You can't go, you can't swing too far to the right or too far to the left. You don't want to do 10 applications. But if you stay within that window, then you'll know whether a private student loan is for you, or if you should be looking at, if you are the parent of a dependent undergraduate student, looking at a Plus Loan, or if you're a graduate student yourself. You'll know what the lay of the land is for you. And it's been across the board. Some of the state lenders that usually really premier rates, I've seen a few surprises out there too, just some outright denials from lenders that usually are very giving, and most people can secure loans. So, and without a really good explanation, I haven't been able to figure out just why yet. So like I said, I think 3 is the magic number.
I agree. I think that's a great idea, Kathleen.
And I love the fact that you mentioned the tuition payment plan. I think it goes unnoticed and underutilized. Folks, it doesn't have to be a $2,000 payment once a month. It can be whatever you can afford from the standpoint of a monthly payment plan to help defray it. So it doesn't get the action that it should. So the other thing that's interesting, that the Congress or the administration and the president, they extended the student loan repayment benefit to December 31st. Santa Claus came a little bit early. And we've got that being pushed off for federal student loans, direct and Plus loans. Have you seen folks signing up and making payments while they've been involved in the first stimulus forgiveness, or not forgiveness, but the freeze for the first period of time?
Not as many as I would like. I always suggest it. I always look at the overall cost. Obviously, if you're in a situation where you cannot make payments and you absolutely need to take advantage of this, go ahead. It is there and it's the right thing to do. But if you are in a situation where you have kept your job and you can afford it, it's a great way to cut down. If you had outstanding interest, you could pay that down, or take a really big chunk out of principal. And you do have that choice when you're making payments. Your servicer should have that option on the website where you can let them know how you want to allocate those payments. So most of the people I'm dealing with have taken advantage of it.
Right, me too. And I just want to clarify, because the CARES Act, for borrowers that don't know this, allowed from March 27th until September 30th, it was 0 interest due, and $0 payments. And many servicers just automatically put those loans into deferment. Okay, and so the extension means that that $0 interest and $0 payment will be extended to until December 31st at a minimum. But that also means, so the good news is that the federal Parent Plus loans that you might be taking for the fall semester, once they're dispersed, half of it is dispersed after the student's been sitting in class 30 days. Right? And then the interest starts to accrue on the portion that you're using, and it won't be accruing because it's 0 interest right now. So that is excellent news.
That's good. I didn't even think of that. That's why we got Shelley on the line here.
I like my money in the bank.
Yeah. So folks should take advantage of using it. If they have questions, they should raise questions with their lenders and their servicers. If you haven't written down your principal balance, write it down so you know it doesn't change as things flip and move forward. We trust our loan servicers, but we don't trust them sometimes. So,
we have all seen mistakes by the loan servicers.
Make a note. They're become, large, and there's new ones coming along because Secretary of Education has awarded some new contracts. So there's a whole new group of those coming out. I don't know what the conversion date is. I don't know if you guys have heard when they will become starting to be using those new servicers.
That's an excellent point, Tom. I forgot about that. And remember when this all went back to direct loans in what, 2008?
Yeah.
We had over 36 loan servicers managing the loan volume. We have even more loan volume, and that pool had shrunk. So I think that was a lot of reason why many of them had bad grades, because they do get graded, right?
Yep.
On performance.
Yep.
Even though they don't get really penalized too much for it, they do get graded. And I think that was a lot of the problem, the volume that they were managing maybe. What do you think about that, Kathleen?
Yeah, from the reading that I've done, I believe they're going to be replacing the servicers rather than adding to the list. So in my head, it was, how are they going to transition? Are the current borrowers going to be grandfathered in, or are they actually going to be forced to make a change? So Tom, I like your suggestion of writing down your balance, but taking screenshots,
Yes.
Printing things off, because I have seen not necessarily federal loans, but private loans where they've changed servicers. Yep. And payments go to the old servicer by accident because they're automatic debit, and they get lost. Yeah. And what a horrible thing. Yeah. So definitely be on the lookout for that. I think there's more information, obviously, that's going to be coming, but I think you're going to have to actively seek it out.
Yeah, and we've seen it injure people's credit, and the servicer not clean it off the person's credit.
I'm glad you brought that up. That's another point that people don't realize, because we have seen that dramatic impacts on people's credits, because especially if you're a graduate, you could have up to 20 federal loans if you got a master's degree or a doctorate. And if you didn't consolidate those are 20 loans on your credit report. And if you're paying your servicer one payment a month and they're allocating that out, when you miss a payment, you get 20 hits on your credit report because you've missed 20 payments, in air quotes. So it has been a disaster for a lot of people. And I don't know what it is about math, but it's always easier to make that number lower than it is to get it back up higher. So take ownership, manage it now.
Yeah, take ownership, write down who your servicer is, balance, account numbers, and be very, very vigilant to watching the conversion. Because if they do close and switch the loan portfolios, I know Nelnet, one of the servicers, is fighting it. Because they feel it was an unfair evaluation process, but be careful of that. I think the other important thing this week or this past week is opening up of the common application. Right. And the fact that we are 3 individuals who are encouraging seniors not to waste any time, use the time wisely for the rest of the summer to go out and set up your account, start taking your high school resume and putting it to work from the standpoint of transferring the information, because come September and October, it's going to be a roller coaster.
Right, the Common App rolled over August 1st, so not all information is lost in there, but typically the recommenders will be lost. So if you're a senior and you started filling it out before August 1st, the content's still there, no worries, but there are some new enhancements to it, and not so great enhancements in my opinion. So I've been working on them with students all week, and the neat feature I like is that in the activity section, students have 10 slots that they can talk about their most important activities that they've participated in while in high school. They added a section for organization. What is the name of the organization that you did this activity with, which gives you more information to describe your role and leadership. And then there's another section in there so that they can describe what they did with or are doing with the organization. So that was interesting and new, and I didn't know that that was going to happen, but it was a happy occurrence. The other thing I would say is in the educational honors section, they hide all the awards if you put them in there before August 1st. They're hidden. You have to open them up. There's 5 slots. So some kids were scared. They're like, where'd all the content go? But it's in there. You just have to open it up. But I was not happy to see how they're managing the recommendation requests. So in Common App, to request teacher recommendations and guidance counselor recommendations, you first have to sign a FERPA. It's a federal form in there that the student must sign. And then you can invite the teachers and guidance counselors in through whatever system your high school uses. Many high schools in the Northeast use Naviance to connect to Common App and upload these recommendations, but they're in each college, and so they've changed the format, and it is a little confusing in my opinion. So I worked a little more with it this afternoon to see if I could work out some of the glitches. If you go into a college on your college list that's in the Common App, and they allow you to have 2 teacher recommendations, that's how I would invite them through that school, because once you get them in the system, then you can allocate them to each school different, the way that you want and the order that you want. However, I do believe that the teachers will be getting multiple requests from Common App, which might confuse them. So just be aware of that. It's something they did last year in the transfer side of the Common App, and they rolled it over this year, which is not, I think it'll be more confusing for the high school students.
Well, I just wrote down on my notes a Common App workshop. So I think we'll discuss it, but I can imagine that's going to be a popular topic for us to be doing in September.
I think that's a great idea, Tom, because there's so many little hidden gems inside the Common App that you can show your student off with if you know where these little secrets lie. So yes, that could be a great workshop.
You confused me, so I'm going to have to go to that workshop.
Sorry.
All right.
Well, and I think it's important just for students, you know, if there are any parents on the line, students don't have to have a full college list before they can start their Common App. There are absolutely sections they can start now. So I think we're kind of looking for reasons to put it off. that can't be one of them, right? It's a big project.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
Do it in little pieces, and you actually can start now, truly.
And again, come September, when everybody thinks it's time to start doing it, you know, with online learning, with change in schedules, it's going to be a roller coaster. So start now if you have the opportunity.
Well, Tom, that is such a great point, because you need to start now, because let me just tell you, you now have a COVID essay. It's only 250 words, right? You have the primary essay, which is 650 words. And once you answer the college questions, all of your supplementals pop up. And the
Right.
school has the right to not submit them until September 1st. So you could have I've had students with 17 other supplemental essays on top of what their primary essay and now the COVID essay. So that might start to stress the student if you don't start managing the Common App now.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Another topic that came up in a couple conversations for sure this week with folks is all living on campus, living in apartments, online learning, gap year. And I know we only have a few minutes left, but and that's a topic of its own. But what are you guys hearing and thinking, and what's your pearls of wisdoms as both parents and advisors when it comes to that topic?
Well, I think it's a lot of students. I've heard every different scenario. University of San Diego shut down their classes, but I have a student who's going out there and sharing an apartment with other students so she can have the experience. It's her second year, and mom and dad are okay with it. But they're going to live off campus, cook together, and take the online courses together. Right. And then you have some students like University of Rochester, they're going back. You can go back to school. Some classes will be online, some will be in person, but they're going to be in the dorm. And then their University of California system, not online, UMass is online, UMass system online. So then some students are just staying home. Many of the students are not deferring because the big schools that are very hard to get into are not allowing it.
Yeah, I definitely saw that. Schools are not going to give the waivers or the grant the deferment. They're going to, especially those that are going into community college, they're going to treat them as transfer students. I had one student that I encouraged them to write the president's office to lock in their scholarship if they did that, and it was deferred down to the admissions office, and the answer was no. So everybody needs to be very conscious. I feel bad for the students, so to speak, that are going to have to live in an apartment and do online learning, but they're a little bit closer to the campus than some that might not be.
Right.
And a word of encouragement would be, don't assume that fall session is going to be like spring session. I think just like everybody, even K through 12, it got sprung on everyone. And although colleges do have online campuses, right, they consider that another leg of their institution, the classes that the students were signed up with in person were not ready for that. When I used to teach, it was a completely different animal when you taught an online class versus an in-person class, and it's a lot more content. So hopefully the universities have given the instructors time. We even had instructional designers that worked with us one-on-one to make sure that the classes we were developing were reaching the goals, and they helped us find whatever we needed. It was a lovely service of the college that I worked at. But I think, I'm hoping that fall will be better.
I think you're right, Kathleen.
I think the fall will be better and spring will be better, and I'm encouraging the students that I work with, if college is the goal and the experience is what you want, as we talk about pivot, be able to be, that much more flexible and move forward.
Right.
So in our closing time, I wanted to make sure that we gave some time to talk about a subject that's important to me, and that's graduating into COVID-19. So it's the after students, because a lot of the conversation about gap year with parents has been, well, I'm going to get a job. My kid's going to get a job. Well, yeah, you're going to compete with, 3 million people that are unemployed, that are highly skilled individuals, and you're going to take a gap year to work. I don't know. So Kathleen, you're the subject matter expert, I think, within the group of us that are working with individuals that are not only just leaving school, but I know a few that you're working with that have been out for a while and trying to experience life and make the transition to something else. So what's going on?
I think at the first and foremost is you have to have a plan. I'm here to say that, yes, there are so many things that have changed, and there are a lot of industries that have just been devastated. But there's just so many on the other side, right? As many as have been devastated, there are jobs out there. But what you need to do is play the game better. So as I was saying this morning, if you allow me to get my soapbox out, this is not an opportunity to crawl into bed and pull the sheets over your head and decide that you can't do this. It's the time to show your tenacity and to be strategic and have a plan, and maybe have a plan A, B, C, D. But work the plan. So if you treat finding a job like your job before you have one, you'll have amazing successes. And doing little things, it always blows my mind when I tell people, I'm like, well, you sent an application into cyberspace. Did you call the company to follow up on it? And they go, oh, you can do that? Yeah. Actually, you can call Adidas headquarters, because I used to work with them in Portland, and somebody actually answers the phone. But you just don't know those things yet. So if you have anybody in your life that has done this before, is an in that industry, can help you with some tools and strategy, it's time to really work the plan and do something every day. You can't sit down once a week and work for 10 hours. That kind of works. Do something small every day towards your goal when it comes to job searching. But there are jobs out there. I think there is some gold, a little harder to find, but some gold nuggets.
I think you support the idea of making sure you have a LinkedIn profile and you join some networking groups and take advantage of those networking groups.
Absolutely. There are still some media person. Yeah.
People love to help each other, so that's what the networking groups and like you said, it's got to have a plan. You got to work it.
Volunteer, get out there any way, shape, or form. Any opportunity to meet somebody is a really good. I love that I have an intern back at the college I used to work at that got an internship at a gas station because he was a friendly guy, and he started a conversation with somebody. I tell that his story all the time. But it's just the fact that if you're willing to look somebody in the eye, shake their hand, and have a conversation, you never know what can come of it.
Yeah, good. So we do have a question that came in, and it has to do with SATs and ACTs. Let's talk a little bit. Let's talk a little bit about testing, because we got so many schools that are optional, but I'm still hearing and knowing that the scholarships require it. I haven't seen the NCAA, even though that all these sports are being canceled, that they have cut back on requiring it on the eligibility center. So what do you guys see? What are you hearing when it comes to the whole vast land of SATs and national testing?
Well, I think it's going to be hard for them to do that for majors like nursing, engineering, and things of that nature. I think it's wait and see, because they don't know if students are going to be able to get testing in. But I will tell you what happened this afternoon. So the next SAT is scheduled for August 29th. And I just had a student get his test canceled because they didn't cancel it at that site, but they're limiting the number of people. So the College Board went through and saw that he already had a test in the spring, so they bumped him.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh.
And so he just got an email this afternoon canceling him. So the test isn't canceled yet. And people have called and told me, my friends are saying, or the neighbors saying, that the test was canceled. It has not been officially canceled on the College Board. They haven't been good at getting that message out there early. But remember, the ACT in July was canceled. We'll probably see many, if not all of them, canceled in August. They added a new one, September 26th. And then many schools have done some set in school ones, kind of like they do with the PSATs for October. So I think it's going to be wait and see to see if they can get some exams in. And then if they do, they're so dependent on leaning on that, I think.
Okay, well, that's good advice for everybody that's involved in listening. Stay close to your guidance department, ask a lot of questions, and consider signing up for Pivotal College Years. Let me make a plug here at the end. Pivotal College Years is an online portal of information, great resource for parents and students and educators and those that might even be in the 17 to 25-year-old group that's looking to go back to school. Rich information and content, downloadables, videos, and it does come with the connection to the three of us. that if you're looking for information and having an opportunity to speak to us, we'll be more than happy. And right now, it's free until the end of the year. So if you know of individuals that want to sign up, by all means, you can go online to Pivotal College Years, sign up for the program. If you are a parent working in a business that you think that your fellow employees would benefit from it, or a credit union or an organization, let us know, because we'd love to have a conversation to help them share the information. The goal is to be able to provide guidance and direction as best as we can. If you have questions for us as we come to an end, by all means, send them to team@pivotalcollegeyears.com. We'll be back on again in September on the 13th. We intend on bringing guest speakers in as we bring our new Talk College to life and offer information on a variety of subjects. So share it, and we thank you for attending.
Good night.
Thank you.